Hey everybody! Today I thought we could talk about garden routines. I think it's really important to have a garden routine. Every morning I come through and I check all of my plants and make sure everything is healthy and not over or under watered, and make sure there's no bugs or anything on any of my plants. And if also when I do my meal planning, I can go through and see what needs to be used up. So here, let's take a look at the garden. Had a lot of progress in the last 2 weeks since I showed you guys the garden. I actually come through and do a walk through my garden twice a day. I come through in the morning after the kids finish school and feed my chickens and let the horses out. I come through and just do a quick walk through of my garden and see how everything is growing, what's not growing, what needs to be pulled up, what needs to be replanted, what is close to harvest. So that way I know what's going on in here and I can pull any weeds. There's not very many weeds in here since I have this weed fabric. But it also shows me what I need to use up, like this kale. I could probably get a little bit of this kale. And some of the bell peppers are finally starting to turn yellow. I picked a couple more already. So they're starting to look good. There's a couple more over here. Some yellow ones. So I might go through this weekend and go ahead and pick these all off, and it will give the smaller bell peppers some time to mature and change color too. One of my chickens got in here last week and kind of mowed down a couple of these lettuces, but they're coming back, so that's really nice. They just keep on growing. My squashes are trying to get the last couple out, and also over here I have a couple of spaghetti squashes that are really doing good. I'm really proud of that one there. So I also come through and see if I have any female flowers that have an open, female fruit that have an open flower, like this one here. There's the female right there that will become the squash if it gets pollinated. So notice how the flowers close now. When I come out in the mornings, most of the time they're open. So then that's the time that you can kind of help your plants out a little bit. See, here's my butternut squash. This one's about to open maybe tomorrow morning. And this one looks like maybe it's already been pollinated since the flower looks like it's starting to die. But what I'll do is I'll just, like this one here, here's a new little one there too. So that's the female one that has the fruit on the bottom. And the male flower doesn't have a fruit on the bottom. It's just a long stem. So what I'll do is I'll take this flower off and I'll peel off the petals. So then there's just this stamen part in the middle there. And then I'll use that like a little Q-tip and dab the inside of the female flower when it's open. I don't have any open ones now. But let's pretend this one here. Let's pretend that's a female flower, and I'll have all these petals ripped off. That there, and it's got pollen on it, and then you just touch it like this. And then that will pollinate the female flower, and most of the time it will continue making a fruit. So I have lots of really little ones coming in. So I do that in the mornings because that's when the female flowers are all open. Notice most of these are all closed because this is in the middle of the day, right after lunchtime. So I do my walkthrough. Just make sure all my plants are doing good. There's not a bunch of weeds, no caterpillars. See, I can see my tomatoes here. They're starting to get pretty bushy. And then sometimes they'll get some disease on them. Like the leaves are starting to turn a little brown right here like this. They're not getting enough airflow through here. They're too crowded. So I'll come through later and I'll kind of just trim up some of these bottom branches down here, just to be careful I don't get any of my flowers. So that was the biggest thing that I learned this year, is to be present in your garden. Come out here, even if it just takes me, 5 minutes. So now I see, look at all this back bok choy. I can take off some of these outer leaves and use those, and they'll grow new ones in the middle. You don't have to cut the whole thing off, just use the leaves on the outside. Now I can see how these green onions are getting really big. So I could probably take out some of these big ones like this, and it'll give this little one some more room to finish growing. So I'll probably do that this weekend too. I'm gonna get this poblano pepper this weekend. It's gonna go in a quiche. It'll be delicious. So I also read that you can harvest some of these broccoli leaves too, like this, that are at the bottom of the plant. And they're just gonna turn yellow and die. You can take those off and use them just like kale or cabbage or anything like that. Saute them up with some butter and salt and garlic. Delicious. See, I can see how it's pretty hot here in Florida this last week. So my collards here, they're kind of a little wilty. Not really enjoying the sun. But look how big my radishes and everything got in this box. Looks fantastic. So another thing I like to do is on my calendars, I'll mark down when I fertilize. I try to fertilize every 2 weeks with an all organic fertilizer. And then I like to spray once a week, some BT spray. I have quite a big problem with caterpillars sometimes, especially with my squash, zucchini, and cucumbers. They love them. I don't know. I'm surprised I got any type of crop, but I don't want them to get any of my winter squash. So it's about time for me. I use this little sprayer right here, and I just put some BT in there with water, and I measure it to the right amount, and I just spray. And you want to make sure when you spray, you got to get under your leaves. So I'll spray the top, and then I'll come through and I'll pick up like the long branch, and I'll spray the whole thing under. And make sure you get your fruits too, tops and bottoms, because the caterpillars will sometimes even like eat through your flower. So I try to make sure I get it at the base of the flower too. And that will kind of help keep them away a little bit. It doesn't deter them fully, you know, they love all that kind of stuff here. So, all right, so another little garden tour, and stick to your routines and your garden will flourish.